Hey guys, in today's video I share with you what are my top 10 favorite Fromsoftware bosses. As you can imagine, doing this list was crazy hard since there are hundreds of bosses to pick from 7 incredible games. Before I give you my top 10, I have some honorable mentions though, because leaving these bosses out of the list was really painful. First we have Pontiff Sullivan, an absolute beast of a boss with never-ending combos joined with a beautiful arena and soundtrack. Also from Dark Souls 3 we have the Twin Princes, one of the most fun and intense fights in the game, joined with an epic soundtrack. From Bloodborne, I have Father Gascoigne, Gehrman and Maria, 3 awesome hunter fights with great stories and perfect soundtracks. From Sekiro, the absolute badass that is Genichiro, and to finish from Elden Ring, I have Morgoth and its phenomenal moveset, great soundtrack and one of the best arenas in the game. It's time for my top 10 and I'm sure many will disagree, so tell me in the comments what are your top 10 because I would love to find out. For my number 10, I decided to pick the dancer from Dark Souls 3. While there are many bosses where you need lots of time to fall in love with them, this is a boss where I can say it was love at first sight. And nope, there is no booty joke coming, the dancer fight is simply that good. It all starts with an awesome cutscene as she descends from the ceiling, and as soon as the cutscene ends, we witness what might be the best atmospheric fight in any Souls game. The pillars that now have fire around them, the haunting but beautiful soundtrack, and especially the sounds of her footsteps make this fight a magical experience. If that wasn't enough, the dancer design is excellent and she also has one of the most elegant movesets in any of the 7 games. As for the difficulty, this is where I have a bit of a nitpick with this boss because RNG plays a big part in this fight, and in first phase she can be extremely docile and rarely attack. Second phase, however, is an absolute blast as she becomes a beast of aggression and has some crazy cool combos that will end your life in seconds. The dancer is a boss so good that even though I already fought her hundreds of times at this point, I still install Dark Souls 3 sometimes just to fight her again. For my number 9, I decided to go with Malekith from Elden Ring. From all the bosses in this list, Malekith is by far the boss that grew the most with me the more I fought him, because when I finished Elden Ring, he was nowhere near the top of my favorite bosses in Elden Ring. The thing with Malekith is that this is a boss with many problems, and I should have focused on all that this boss does well, instead of the things that I didn't like about this fight. I do however think it's fair that I talk about the things I wasn't a big fan in this fight. The first thing I want to mention is that you can get hit by the Draconic Tree Sentinel even when the fight already started, which can lead to some ridiculous deaths. Another thing I wish was different in this fight is that Malekith's health bar was much higher because I can destroy him really fast and you don't even need to be over leveled for it to happen. Another thing I wish it was different is that the beginning of second phase wasn't a scripted attack that can be easily avoided, making me take Malekith down in just 15 seconds. But I am here to compliment bosses and Malekith has a ton of things that it does right. First of all, I want to start with how cool the entrance for this fight is, where we have dragons, tornadoes and a Draconic Tree Sentinel surrounding what is the entrance to a phenomenal arena. Next, I want to compliment the soundtrack for both phases, which I think is pretty underrated and definitely deserves more appreciation. The cutscene to second phase is also badass, and my boy Malekith sure has some cool lines joined with some excellent voice acting. I can't talk about Malekith without mentioning how cool he looks. I would say he is easily in the top 5 coolest boss designs Fromsoftware has ever made. As for the fight itself, well, it is a blast, but it is definitely a boss that needs to be learned extremely well to get its full potential, since knowing how to position yourself is very important in this fight. First phase is a great warm-up, but second phase is where the fight shines the most, as we see some of the most spectacular moves in the entire game, as Malekith flies around the arena with all the style in the world. Malekith is also one of my favorite fights when it comes to do spectacle no-hit fights, since Malekith is one of those bosses where you can use all the tools that the game offers you to make some absolutely beautiful fights. Malekith is a beast of a boss with some minor flaws that I can easily ignore. For my number 8, I decided to go with Messmer from Elden Ring. Before I even played Shadow of the Erdtree, I made a short video where I said Messmer would become the best boss in video game history. And even though that did came true to some people that see him now as the best Fromsoftware boss of all time, that same feeling, however, I do not share it sadly. I love Messmer to infinity, don't get me wrong, I mean he is still in my top 10, but some minor things like the arena being crazy boring and the soundtrack, even though good, being nowhere near one of the best, stops him from going higher in this list. As for the fight itself, however, Mesmer is as peak can get, because this is a spectacle of a boss fight with a ton of things to complement. This first phase might even be my favorite, as he starts the fight with all the style in the world, as he lands and creates a massive explosion, and then proceeds to use his spear and fire to take you down with some of the coolest attacks you will see in a boss fight, like my personal favorite Mesmer Assault. In second phase we get a crazy cutscene as he reveals his true powers and brings giant snakes to the fight, which are crazy to fun to deal with and brings even more spectacle to an already amazing fight. In the difficult department, Mesmer was my second hardest in the DLC, which is always something I love since I play these games for the challenge, and Mesmer 100% hits the mark in that department. Mesmer might not be the best Fromsoftware boss for me, but it's easy to see why it's many people's favorite boss of all time. For my number 7, I decided to go with Midir from Dark Souls 3. Even though I know Midir has its fans, I have no doubts that people are screaming at their screams right now, as I just put Midir over Mesmer and Bale doesn't even get an honorable mention. I promise you I'm not trying to be controversial, I just love Midir that much, since I always had a thing for dragons, not just in video games but as mythical creatures, and I believe Midir is the single greatest dragon fight in video game history. Before we even get to fight Midir, we see him for the first time as he flies and burns the bridge we are supposed to cross in one of the coolest moments in the DLC, and the second time as we find him in a pretty cool warm-up for what is about to come. The entrance to the fight is cool as cool can get, and he greets us with a massive roar. Right after the roar, our ears are blessed with what is to me one of the best soundtracks Fromsoftware has ever created. The fight begins and we witness a badass looking dragon trying to destroy us with fire breaths, tail swipes, charge attacks, claw attacks, massive bites, crazy combos, and even goddamn lasers. Even though Midir is a breeze to fight for me right now, on my first playthrough this behemoth of a boss took my life for 50 times, being one of the hardest fights in the game. Not only was he challenging, but avoiding some of his attacks was a super fun learning experience. I love when he flies and you're supposed to unlock and run to your left to go under the fire. I love the combo where he finishes with a sideways fire breath where you roll through it and it feels badass. And that phenomenal laser attack in second phase is up there as one of the best attacks Fromsoftware has ever created. Midir isn't without any flaws, however, since I really dislike the fact the lock-on sometimes stops working. But to this day, this is still one of my favorite fights in Souls, very deserving of being in the top 10. For my number 6, I decided to go with Godfrey from Elden Ring. The first Elden Lord enters the list just shy of the top 5, but make no mistake, these last 6 bosses are all so incredibly good that any of them deserve the crown on this list. Godfrey has, which is to me probably the best first phase of any boss ever, with his awesome stomps, axe throws, and massive explosions, and it's joined with a bombastic soundtrack. Second phase, however, even though still amazing, is not as good, and also the soundtrack lowers in quality, which stops him from being higher on this list. Godfrey is an incredible boss that I love dearly, but I just like the remaining 5 a little bit more. For my number 5, I decided to go with Sister Fried from Dark Souls 3. Sister Fried is a 3-phase boss fight that will test even the most skilled players out there, because she is to me easily the hardest boss in Dark Souls 3. Her first phase has a very calm and beautiful soundtrack, but it's all just a trap because she can go invisible and make half of your health disappear in a blink of an eye. In second phase we witness a really cool cutscene as Father Ariandel brings her back to life, and we have what is one of the best duo fights in any Souls games. Father Ariandel is the aggressive one, but you always have to keep an eye on Fried because she can hit you from any distance and she even has the power to heal. When you finally beat her and her father in one of the biggest twists in any of these games, Fried rises again for a third phase where she reveals all of her powers in a non-stop spectacular fight. Sister Fried is an epic boss fight, one that you will never forget. For my number 4, I decided to go with Orphan of Kos from Bloodborne. As you can easily guess, this boss is the inspiration for the name of my YouTube channel because I simply love this boss that much. He is not my number 1, however, because I can't deny that Orphan does have its flaws, like the animation cancel he does from time to time, and there are things like the parry cheese that has never been fixed. The thing about Orphan to me though is that this boss feels more than just a fight where we have a cool looking boss with an awesome moveset and soundtrack. To me, Orphan is Bloodborne. It all starts with a disgusting cutscene as we witness a very ugly baby being born from his dead mother as he moves in our direction with its placenta as a weapon. His slow walking is quickly replaced with crazy fast movements because this is an angry baby in search for revenge. As the fight progresses, he gets stronger as he gains wings, and we now enter what is to me probably the most exciting fight in any game ever. He chases you non-stop, jumps all over the place, throws pieces of his placenta, and even screams to the skies, making a lightning strike his mother and spread all over the arena. As we beat him, we have his soul over his mother, and when we hit it, we have this beautiful cutscene as we end the nightmare and Kos' suffering is ended. I don't know how you, the viewer, felt listening to this, but I only wish my English was better and I had a poetry vein in me, because this boss feels very special to me and I'm just not very good with words. Either way, it's time for my number 3 spot, and I did some cheating because I actually gave the spot to 2 bosses. And that is because I simply can't choose which boss I like the most between these two. It's really hard to choose which boss from these two I like the most, because in one side you have Ishin, which is the best main game final boss Fromsoftware has ever done, and on the other side we have this crazy adrenaline rush fight that is Father Owl, and I love both equally. Father Owl fight is crazy intense, especially in his first phase where you have a non-stop chain of combos with firecrackers and shurikens into the mix, and in second phase he brings his owl to add some visual spectacle. This fight has what is to me the best soundtrack in the game by far, and even though the arena also belongs to Lady Butterfly, I sure love how it looks. As for Ishin, we fight him where our first fight with Ganeshiro took place, and it's a cool looking place joined with some nice music as well. The real spectacle, however, comes 100% from the fight itself, which is simply perfection, and you have to use everything you learn while playing the game. In first phase he takes things slowly, as he is just testing you, but as soon as he gets to second phase, all hell breaks loose and he even brings a gun to the fight. Third phase ends with a lightning show, it's all simply absolute cinema. It's time for the final two, and you probably already guess who they are, and same as Ishin and Owl, I find it crazy hard to pick which one I love the most, but I made a decision, and my number 2 boss fight in Souls goes to no other than Slave Knight Gale.
Hand it over, that thing, your dark soul, for my lady's painting.
Dark Souls Santa Claus, as many like to call him, is the final boss from the Ring City DLC and the absolute final boss in the Dark Souls series. And I have to congratulate Fromsoftware, because this is how you make a perfect final boss to end the series with a bang. We fight Gale at the literal end of the world, and this fight is the epitome of epicness. First phase is above all lots of fun, with Gale jumping everywhere with its massive sword, but it's only when the fight enters its second phase that all the epicness begins. I mean, just listen to how the soundtrack begins as we run into his direction and tell me if this isn't freaking amazing. Something else that is also amazing is the sound design for this fight. Gale's voice is freaking cool, and I love the sound of the cape attacks and his crossbow. In third phase, Gale brings skulls flying around the arena and lightning attacks everywhere as he chases you around this amazing arena in the chase for your dark soul. Gale is a boss that simply excels at everything: music, arena, moveset, boss design, difficulty, every single thing has peak quality, and that's why he is number 2 on this list. But there is one more boss that is as peak as Gale, but he is on my favorite game of all time, and that is of course Ludwig the Accursed.
Beast, the great terror looms. Have mercy upon us.
Ludwig is the first boss from the masterpiece that is the Old Hunters DLC, and he isn't just my favorite boss in Souls, but in all of gaming. At this point, I already fought Ludwig probably for around 500 times, but I never get tired of it, and I love going back to Bloodborne for another round of epicness with this giant beast. Ludwig has my favorite cutscenes in all of Souls, my second favorite soundtrack, only behind Lawrence, and it's also my favorite boss design. I mean, just look at him, he looks freaking amazing. Unlike most people, I think Ludwig's first phase is his best phase, where he throws a ton of different attacks at you that must be dealt in many different ways, being the attack where he flies into the ceiling, one of my favorites in Bloodborne. Second phase, however, is equally as good, as he brings the Moonlight Sword into the mix for what is an audio-visual experience that will stay in your memory forever. As we beat him, we get to talk with his head and receive the Moonlight Greatsword, which is easily one of the best weapons in the game. Ludwig might be a bit of a cliché choice, but he is my pick for the best boss in all of Souls. Hope you enjoyed watching the video, and please share in the comments what bosses are your favorites, and as always, I see you guys in the next video. Stay well, bye bye.